The Little Red Hen tries altruism. The Little Red Hen went to the Carnegie Library and was reading about ethics. There she learned that ethics were a code of values designed to guide your life choices. Everywhere she turned, the TV, politicians, her preacher, they all told her that altruism was the best ethical philosophy and being selfish was evil. So she decided to do some more research. She found that altruism was first proposed by a French philosopher named Auguste Comte. She learned in reading about altruism that the definitive formula for ethical behavior is to live for others, and individualism is evil. She also learned that selfishness could sneak in surprising ways. For instance, by giving to charity, someone might not be altruistic, they might be being selfish and egotistical, like the Carnegie Library, for instance. Before learning about altruism, she thought it was so nice that Carnegie donated his money to create a library. But clearly, all he wanted to do was stroke his own ego by putting his name on all these libraries across the United States. This reminded the Little Red Hen of the wonderful piano concert she'd seen, which was played in Carnegie Hall. She remembered how she'd loved that concert, but now she felt embarrassed because it was played at Carnegie Hall. As the Little Red Hen headed back to the farm, she was excited to try out the ideas of altruism. She was sure that by using this new ethical theory that she'd learned about, it would improve the lives of everyone on the farm. As she approached the farm, she was reminded that they were low on food, so she decided that she'd go out into the field and look for food. Before she left, she talked to her friend the pig, who was very smart and a professor of political science at the local university. She told Professor Pig about what she'd learned about altruism. She asked Professor Pig, "Will you help me find some food?" Professor Pig had carefully listened to her talk about altruism. "Are you looking for food for yourself or for other people?" asked the pig, who just wanted to lay around and read Das Kapital. The Little Red Hen didn't understand the pig's point, so she went to her friend the duck to ask him if he would help her find some food. But before she could ask the duck for help, the duck asked about her trip to the library. So she told the duck about altruism and ethics and how excited she was to apply this ethical theory to make her life better. The duck responded, "What do you mean, make your life better? Isn't that being selfish?" The Little Red Hen and the duck argued about this for a while until the Little Red Hen was so frustrated she left. The Little Red Hen thought, "Surely the dog will help me. The dog's my friend." So she gave the dog a big smile as she approached him. The dog said, "I saw you talking to the pig. What were you talking about?" She explained to the dog about the conversation she had with Professor Pig about altruism. The dog, who was feeling lazy, said, "Well, the pig is very smart, so if he says it's being selfish to go look for food, then that's evil and we shouldn't do that." The Little Red Hen wandered away dejectedly. But as she wandered, the sun was bright, the field was pretty, and her mood improved. While the Little Red Hen was wandering around in the fresh grass, she saw some kernels of wheat. She got very excited, thinking how they could gather these kernels of wheat to grow some wheat and then make some bread. She spent hours diligently picking up all these kernels of wheat. When she returned to the farm, she asked Professor Pig, "Will you help me plant this wheat?" "No, I'm too busy studying this book from Chairman Mao." "You should love this book, Little Red Hen. It's called The Little Red Book. Besides, who are you planting this wheat for?" The Little Red Hen said, "I'm planting it for me." She saw a frown spread across the pig's face and quickly corrected, "I'm planting it for all of us." The wise professor rubbed his chin and he said, "Isn't that selfish?" The Little Red Hen slunk off, dejected, and went to the duck. "Duck, Will you help me plant this wheat? The duck responded, What did the Professor Pig say? He said it would be selfish for me to plant this wheat for us. Well, the professor's very smart, and I don't want to be selfish, so I won't help you plant this wheat. So the little red hen went to the dog. Will you help me plant this wheat? The dog said, Well, if Professor Pig doesn't think we should plant the wheat, and the duck doesn't think we should plant the wheat, who am I to do something different? Over the next couple of months, the little red hen watched as the wheat grew into tall grass. Then it turned a golden yellow. It was time to harvest the wheat. While the little red hen was deciding what to do, she thought, I should see what Auguste Comte's Altruism says about this. Would harvesting the wheat be selfish, or would it be selfless? Because I don't want to do anything that's selfish. She couldn't decide, so she went to Professor Pig and said, Will you help me harvest the wheat? Professor Pig said, I'm busy studying the brilliant exploits of Che Guevara and how he murdered kids to bring communism and freedom to the workers of the world. The little red hen was flustered by this. Well, the wheat needs to be harvested. The professor rubbed his chin. He asked, Are we doing this for ourselves, or are we doing it for others? The little red hen scratched her head, thought about it, and thought, This is a strange riddle. So she went to the duck. Will you help me harvest the wheat? What did the professor say? He asked me if harvesting the wheat was selfless or selfish. Well, what is it, selfless or selfish? The little red hen said, I don't know. I'm going to go harvest the wheat. The duck said, The professor's very smart, and if he's worried that this is selfish, then I don't want to do that. So the little red hen went to the dog and asked, Will you help me harvest the wheat? What did the duck and the pig say? They said they wouldn't help me. I don't want to do anything that's different than the group, so I won't help you either. So the little red hen harvested the wheat by herself under the hot sun. When she was done, she went to Professor Pig and asked, Will you help me take this wheat to the mill and get it ground into flour? The pig said, I'm way too busy studying about how Pol Pot eliminated the greedy capitalists from his country. The little red hen had no idea who Pol Pot was, what this had to do with harvesting wheat. So the little red hen went to the duck and asked, Will you help me take this wheat to the mill to be ground into flour? What did Professor Pig say? Asked the duck. The little red hen responded, He said something about Pol Pot, but I don't know what that is. The duck said, Professor's very smart, and if he doesn't want to help you take the wheat to the mill, then neither do I. So the little red hen slinked off dejectedly to the dog and asked the dog, Will you help me take this wheat to be ground into flour so we can make bread? The dog asked, Is anyone else going to help you? No, the pig and the duck turned me down. Well, I only want to do what the group does. I don't want to stick my neck out. The little red hen turned from the mill, prepared to make some bread with her freshly ground wheat. She asked Professor Pig, Will you help me bake some bread? I'm way too busy reading about the freedom fighter Castro. Besides, is baking bread altruistic, or are you doing it for yourself? Are you being selfish again, little red hen? Scolded the pig. The little red hen's beak began to quiver, and her eyes teared up, and she walked away dejectedly. She asked the duck, Will you help me bake some bread with my newly ground wheat? The duck asked, What did Professor Pig say? Professor Pig said it would be selfish to bake bread. Well, I don't want to be selfish, so I won't help you either. So the little red hen went to the dog and asked the dog, Will you help me bake some bread with my freshly ground wheat? The dog asked. Is the Professor Pig or the duck helping you? No. The dog said, well, I only want to do what the group does, so I won't help you either. So the little red hen decided to bake the bread herself. The wonderful smell of the baked bread caused the pig, the duck, and the dog all to show up. As the little red hen pulled out the freshly baked bread, they all sat down at the table. The little red hen asked, will you help me eat this bread? The dog said, yes, I'll help you eat this bread. And the duck said, yes, I'll help you eat this bread. And the Professor Pig asked, are we eating this bread for ourselves? Is this being altruistic? They all looked at the Professor Pig surprised, but they all knew that the Professor Pig was very smart. So they asked, well, what does that mean? It means that we're eating it because we want it, because it's in our self-interest, and that would be evil. The little red hen said, well, I don't want to be evil, so what can we do with this bread? The pig said, I'll take it and make sure it doesn't go to anyone who's self-interested. So the pig went off to the Communist Party, and he gave his Communist Party friends all the bread and all the extra flour for good measure. When he returned, he told them how they should all feel so proud of themselves because they'd done something that was selfless. But not too proud, that would be selfish. The little red hen thought that the glow from being morally good almost compensated for the fact that she was so hungry and her stomach was growling. Winter started early that year, and it was long and harsh. And because there was no wheat to eat, the little red hen and the dog and the duck almost starved to death. But somehow, the pig had plenty of food. The end. Long live freedom, damn it.